Today we're going to be doing a tutorial on making an RPG game, a multimedia fusion. And the reason I decided to do this was because I've seen several tutorials on it on YouTube, but I mean, of course they're not precise enough, it doesn't go into depth, it doesn't give you enough detail. So I decided to do this, and today we're going to be doing landscapes and backdrops, backgrounds, trees, grass, everything. What you're going to want to do is click on this grid button, and depending on your frame size, I chose the traditional 240 by 160 resolution that was used in Game Boy Advance games, and I set that as my screen size. That said, I set the width of my tiles as 20 width by 20 height. You're going to want to make your resolution whatever you want, and then make the tile size whatever you want, and then we can get started. After you've got all that down, you're going to want to click the show grid button and click the snap to grid button. That way most of your tiles will just stick on. Let's start with something basic. Your tiles should always be 20 by 20 in size, except if it's something that should be, off the ground, like a house or a tree or something. In that case, you could resize this 40 height by 60 width, and it would fit perfectly. You could still, move it around. It snaps to the grid, so it's really useful. And if you want to clone it, you can just hold down the control button and copy it just like that, if you want to make several houses or several trees or something. But let's get back to this. We are going to start with this 2020 tile. This is going to be our grass tile. So that looks good enough so far. I'm going to title this grass tile. Let's see. You're gonna want to have an opening into, let's say water. Let's say you want to have an opening into water, to have a water tile. So what you can do is first you want to make the corners of it. And that's easy, you can just chip pieces off, just like that. I would make animated water, but I'm keeping these tutorials short and to the point. So that's what you're going to want to do for a corner. You're going to have to rename this corner tile. I want to clone that 4 times, each for a different part. And as you can see, you can have it looking like that if you want, just a small puddle of water. But let's say you want several instead of, just that small pond. What you can do with this is you can clone this one and just copy it in the drawing interface. You can re-clone it and flip it upwards. If you continue this in all of the corner directions any way you want, you'll eventually get a good looking water pondish thing. If you ever get tired of just constantly holding control and dragging them, you can hold down the select button, not the select button, but the shift button. Select as many as you want. I'm gonna use 4, and then you can hold down control and it just copies more for you. Sorry I'm not talking as much, I'm kind of in the moment. I have music playing, kind of relaxation music. It's leading me to not talk. Looks about right, so I'm gonna drag that upwards. I'm gonna drag this across. There we go. So we have that. We may want to make another tile, such as, let's say a rock. You're gonna want to clear this, but you're not gonna want to change the size at all. Even if you want to shrink it or crop it, you don't want to do that because it might mess up how it snaps to the grid. Gonna just draw a rock. It's not too shabby. Alright. Looks good enough. So you're going to want to click OK. Oh, forgot to order these to back. That way you can just place rocks anywhere you want. Okay. Now we're going to move on to making things a bit bigger in the landscape. That's bigger than the original 2020 settings that I have going on here. For example, a tree. I'm going to set the height to 40 instead of 20. And yeah, I can work with that. Gonna get to drawing. Here you have it, a perfectly good looking tree. So you'll see that in the drawing interface it still snaps directly to where you want it. But the only difference is when you clone them, they kind of overlap each other and give it that, actual tree feel. That seems to work for this, so I'm gonna put some trees over here instead of where they would have originally been. They look a bit better in the corner. And there you have it. You have trees, rocks, grass, and a pond. Now we're gonna head into making a house. To make a house, what you're gonna want to do is, like I said before, you can change the size to an even 40 by 60. Well, other way around. 60 width, 40 height. And that should be about a good size for a house that I'm going to put by the lake. It'll be a good lake house. So, once again, I'm gonna skip through this. We have a perfectly good house. The reason I left this door empty was because in order to get into it, which I'm gonna get into further into the tutorial, we're gonna have to make the door inactive and give it an ID. But I will show you guys that later. I specifically made the door 2020 by size, so it's about the size of a tile, so it's good. We're all good here. So that's the little lake house I have. Didn't work too much on it, but I might in between tutorials. I might, go back and make everything look a bit better. But there you have it. That is simply backgrounds and backdrops and everything else. I will see you next tutorial. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe.